Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to Book Club Date. That's my wife, Katy.
And that's my husband, Josh.
So excited that you're here to join our book club. And we are doing Once More with Feeling by Elissa Sussman. Elissa. This is part 1 of 3. We hope you go along with us. But before we get into the book that we are reading right now for book club, Katy, what else are you reading?
I'm not. Our beagle is sitting right here.
He's right here.
Right there. And grumbling because.
We're talking.
And moving. And he doesn't like those things.
Nope.
When he's trying to, sleep for his 20th hour of the day.
Priorities.
Happens. I'm not reading much else.
Okay.
Right now. How about you?
I'm still reading Mind Burn. I'm entering the final act of that.
Nice.
I was hoping to have finished it by today, but I just got busy with other things, but that's okay. I will read it when I get to it. I'll probably read it this evening.
Nice.
It's an enjoyable book. I recommend it. I've spoken about it previously on the podcast. I will refrain from talking about it further until I finish it.
Nice.
Yes. All right. So, it's all you, hon.
Okay. Well, so today we're going to be talking about Once More with Feeling. It's about Kathleen Rosenberg, a former pop star. She is offered the lead in a new musical and a chance at a career comeback. But she does have a history with the director, Cal Kirby. He's a former boy band member, and they've got, at least she has some lingering emotions that have been unresolved after an unfortunate incident in their former lives. The musical has Broadway potential and would be huge for each of their careers. Can they navigate the flood of emotions and memories from the past and remain civil for the success of the show? And as it is a romance, the tropes that are included in this one are enemies to lovers and second chance romance.
Yep, and the author, as mentioned, is Elissa Sussman. I'm going to go with Elissa. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it. But Sussman is the author of this novel. Funny You Should Ask, as well as the young adult novels Drawn That Way, Stray, and Burn. She has a BA from Sarah Lawrence College, a MFA from Pacific University, and in a previous life, managed animators and organized spreadsheets at some of the best animation studios in the world, including Nickelodeon, Disney, DreamWorks, and Sony Imageworks. You can see her name in the credits of The Croods, Hotel Transylvania, The Princess and the Frog, and Tangled. She lives in her hometown of Los Angeles with her husband and their 2 dogs, Basil and Mozzarella.
So in this week's episode, we're going to be covering chapters 1 through 10. And just FYI, there will be spoilers. As always.
Yes, you've been warned.
Yeah.
So we're done. We're done warning you. Okay, moving into our discussion.
So we got a little bit of background about our primary characters, our main characters, and then a couple of secondary characters. So would you like to tell us about Kathleen Rosenberg or Katy Rose?
Sure. So I think it's important to understand that Kathleen Rosenberg and Katy Rose are 2 different people and personas. One is her
personas.
One is her stage name or her former stage presence and personality, and the other is the actual person behind it all, Kathleen. She's a former pop star, so I'm not a big pop star kind of guy, so I'm just going to relate to what I know, and I would say she's like a Britney Spears type pop star, and then she kind of crashed and burned through some scandal that occurred. But she's kind of in her own head a lot, specifically in the present. This book bounces back and forth between present time and flashbacks. The flashbacks are leading up to eventually the catalyst that caused Katy Rose's career to crash. And the present is more about Kathleen Rosenberg and how she's gradually, I believe, building herself back up. But her fling with this guy named Cal when she was Katie Rose is kind of resurfacing now that she's Kathleen Rosenberg more so. I hope I'm making sense. I'm trying not to confuse you guys if you're listening. I'm assuming you've read it, so you kind of get what I'm putting down here. But basically, she had a career, and her career ended after a cheating scandal. I guess all of everyone's thoughts and opinions were directed toward her and not necessarily this guy named Cal. Cal was part of a boy band, and basically Katie Rose was dating another person in the boy band. His name was Ryan, but then she cheated on Ryan with Cal.
But she also had known Cal first because they met at a camp when they were younger before either of them were famous. And
right. So she's
got some history with this guy.
She does got some history with this guy. And man, is this guy in her head. I swear to God.
He is in her head.
It is like a bit exhausting for me to read sometimes, but it's okay. No, he's like in her head, and probably I bet if we read it from Cal's perspective, she's in his head.
Probably. So I was gonna get into this later, but it's not. The story structure in this book. Not only do we have now versus then split storylines, right? Discussing the past and the present, but it's also first person point of view following Kathleen only, which is actually not typical for the romance genre, which I've read quite a few of.
Interesting.
And usually if they do put a romance in first person, they will include the main guy's point of view as well. So it'll usually either split from chapter to chapter, one chapter following her, one chapter following him, or something similar to that. So we get, or it's in third person, and we get both characters' points of views anyway. So this is a little bit different and not, I would say it's not typical for the romance genre.
The first person, you mean, and the fact that it's only...
Having first person with only her point of view.
Yeah, I naturally want a break from Kathleen.
From her.
I do.
Yeah.
Like, I naturally do. Like, I would find her a bit more tolerable if there was a break to be had.
Yeah, and I think it helps when you have the guy's point of view because it shows what he likes about her too. Whereas you're just getting, like, her inner thoughts, and I kind of agree. She's a little exhausting.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
But, I am open-minded because I think characters are all about growth and development. You don't want to see a character who starts off perfect and then just remains perfect. So I'm fine with her being this way, but I want to see development.
Some growth.
Development and growth in some fashion.
Yeah.
So I apologize. I went completely off the rails with your rundown here. My bad.
That's okay. That's all right.
We're freewheeling here, people.
We are freewheeling today. So let me scroll back up to where we were.
Yes.
Or you can't. Okay.
I got it. I got longer.
He's got longer arms than me. It's a bit more of an effort for me to reach. Okay.
Okay. So.
And the dog moved. That helps.
So we talked about Katie a little bit.
We talked about her. Yeah. So we also meet her friend Harriet, who's her BFF. They also met at this camp. So Kathleen / Katie Rose, her friend Harriet, and then Cal, the love interest, they all met at this performing arts camp, basically. We find out that Harriet had written some music for Kathleen when she was performing as Katie Rose. She's the composer-writer of this musical, Riveted. She's been a composer for a while now, but hasn't necessarily hit that kind of juicy success, right? She's done well for herself, but this would be huge for her career, having this musical Riveted take off, be a success, and make it to Broadway. That would be huge for her. I mean, it'd be huge for all of them, but I think especially for Harriet, it would really, like, establish her solidly. So there's a lot riding on this musical. Cal Kirby is the former Crush Zone member. He's now the director for Harriet's musical, and he's the guy who think it's basically been implied that while Kathleen was dating Ryan, one of the members of Crush Zone, she had a little fling with Cal Kirby. But it sounds like they had a history with that, getting to know each other at that camp, to the point where in the first couple of chapters, I was actually kind of confused, like, who is the real love interest? Is it this Ryan guy or is it Cal? And then I had to double check on, like, with the back of the book and was like, oh, okay, no, it is Cal. Cal's the one we're rooting for here.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you noticed that, but it was kind of like, wait a second.
No, that part was pretty clear to me. I was like, okay, she had a hookup with Cal for
Yeah.
whatever reason, and now we're kind of finding out why and why they.
But we find out at camp, like, he came out on stage and started singing, doing his audition, and she was, like, immediately infatuated with him.
Yeah, she loves his baritone voice.
Yeah. And then we jumped to her with Ryan and then a thing with Cal. So I was kind of like, wait a second, what are we doing?
What is happening? Yeah, because she titles it then and now, these past and present
Yeah.
moments. Is
But
how
both
they
of those were
oftentimes-
in the past.
Mhm.
So that's why it was like, okay.
Okay.
So
I
we
can see
jumped
how that
from
could be
her as like
confusing.
a teenager at camp to then like her like 2 years later
Right.
as a pop star or something. There's a few spots where things are like, you have to do a little more work. Like they can be a little hinky,
Right.
I noticed.
Right. Like you got to think a bit more about it,
Yeah.
which I'm not opposed to.
I'm
So-
not either. There are just some things like the one nasty girl from camp auditioned and then we haven't heard anything about her anymore. And I'm like, is she going to come back in? What's happening here?
Maybe
Yeah. So,
she'll be one of the castmates. But all the castmates met already.
yeah,
We read,
they
so
did.
she
And we
would've
didn't hear
noticed.
anything about that. So I'm like, well,
Yeah.
did she or did she not? Like, I'm okay either way. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Maybe she was just the passing enemy or something.
It could have been. Could have been.
Not a frenemy.
Yeah. So we see the lingering tension and attraction between Kathleen and Cal, at least from Kathleen's point of view, as they try to work together to make the musical a success. So that's where it's kind of like, I think it would help to have his point of view
Yes.
as well. And I think
Yeah. Just from a reader's perspective, it would help provide that break.
it would, and I think it could offer more opportunity to like see her good qualities
Mm-hmm.
because she is just like bashing herself a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, she's completely biased, and she's her harshest critic. Which,
Yeah, which I think is
yeah.
actually quite accurate if you
Mhm.
know many musicians, like
Yeah.
that I do find accurate.
Yeah. As a musician.
As a musician, that I do find accurate. There'll be times you'll tell someone, and there are times where I've been told, "Oh yeah, you sounded great," and you're like, "Oh, thanks," but I screwed up that note, and messed this up, and you just nitpick at yourself a lot. So
Right. Kind of like in a Whiplash.
which I have not seen.
I'm not sure if you can handle it.
I don't know that I want.
It's
to.
it's anxiety inducing.
Yeah, I also know that my nerves could take that.
Sorry for the tangent, but
That's why you're here for the tangent.
for the tangents.
Tangent.
For the tangents. Okay, so one of the questions you have here.
Yeah. So, do you feel like Kathleen has spent too much time living in the past, and do you think her anger of that past will hurt the musical's success?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Would
and
you like to elaborate at all?
yes. I plead the fifth.
Okay.
No, and I will. Yeah, I mean, she definitely it spends a lot of time living in the past. It's also, I think, important to realize I don't know what her age is in the present,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I suspect she's probably mid-30s or so, right?
Oh, I was thinking more like even early 40s.
Like early 40s. Okay, so I mean,
It's clearly been a while, and they talked about, they
Yeah.
mentioned something about her starting to have gray hairs. So
okay, yeah, so that would make sense. So I mean, so obviously in her 20s, she had her peak. You could argue, right? And she's been kind of dealing with the fact that it's basically been all downhill in many respects.
yeah,
In some respects, she says, it's been good. She's gotten the chance to figure out what Kathleen likes and not what Katie Rose is expected to like,
yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's good. I think she's moved on in some ways. But you know, like Cal entered the picture and just completely, I think, upended any type of
Like the stability she had kind of found.
yeah, and she's really just. I'm trying to think about how to phrase this without losing my train of thought here. She's just it really feels like I am reading the inner mind of a 22-year-old, and she's supposed to be mid 30s to early 40s or whatever her age is.
Right.
And that's, you know, everyone matures at different rates and all that and everything, but man, I don't know. It just kind of,
I think
it's kind of
that's a
disappointing.
good description of it. You're kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like she did not age past 25 mentally.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, do I think maybe Cal is her problem and could also be her solution? I do, and I'm curious to see what develops in all that. So,
Yeah.
but I don't think he's going to be the solution before she hurts her current momentum.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah.
So, but that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Well, she seems to have quite a bit of anger built up, particularly toward him, because it sounds like he faced no fallout
Or very, very
minimal
Yeah.
from the cheating scandal, and she got the brunt of it, which also, like, not fair. They were both, like, early 20s.
Takes 2 to tango.
It does take 2. And I think her ex-boyfriend really threw her under the bus as well, it sounds like.
Well, Ryan got burned.
He did.
I mean, you know,
he did.
He was probably heartbroken.
And I think she did say
certain degree.
that, like, the relationship was practically over anyway.
Yeah.
Or at least in her mind, it was pretty much over. She just hadn't actually broken up with him yet.
Yeah, and she's a terrible communicator.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe Ryan was on one page and she was on the other, but she just didn't communicate what page she was on.
It could be.
You know?
It could be. Yeah.
But anyway, so the next question you have is, do you think she and Cal had a romance at camp before they both became famous? What do you think, hon? Do you think that her and Cal had a not even like a physical romance?
A little
but like
bit. I think the
yeah.
feelings definitely started there.
I think the feeling started the moment he belted his first love.
Oh, yeah. Like, clearly her feelings started then.
She was like, oh my.
I am curious for, like, more of their past history, because we really haven't learned much about that yet. She just keeps saying that, like, he faced none of the fallout and she got all of it. Like, her career was ruined. He went on like nothing happened. And I'm kind of like, well, I don't know the details of what happened, because she's made some remarks as well that, like, he should have done more. He should have done something. And I'm kind of like, I don't know the details. I don't know what he would have done without knowing what happened. So, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think they definitely, in all likelihood, had a non-physical romance, or it was verging on physical, if that makes any sense. Like,
yeah.
Like, I think
maybe a little kissing.
Yeah, you know, I mean, they're at a camp.
Yeah.
It's like essentially a
Teenagers
musical
or
theater camp.
preteens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got hormones raging everywhere. I have no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that will come up.
So do you feel like, moving on, was it right of Cal to have her audition for her spot in the musical?
Yes. Yes, she does not. She even Kathleen admits that she's not the icon she once was. So she may not be the draw she once was, right? Her name is still recognizable.
Yeah.
You know, but it's kind of one of those things like, are you really going to go out of your way to see her perform or see this play just because so and so is in it, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like I'll go out of my way and go see Tom Cruise star in his latest movie because it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Katie Rose's name doesn't have that same effect. I get the sense from
Right.
from this. So yeah, I think it was right for Cal to have her audition. Also, I think it was more so about Cal wanting to see if he could work with her, because he asked her to perform another piece.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one that she knows of, one that she's sung before,
And one that he knew that she was capable of. He knew she was familiar with that one.
That really wasn't a trying to muscle her around test.
Yeah.
That was I need you to at times do what I'm going to direct you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to know it's not going to be a problem. Like, that's what I think he was having. I think that's why he was having her do that, because if they can't even do that,
yeah,
then it's kind of then it's pointless.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And that's another place where I think it would have helped to had some of his perspective as well, right? Because they
100%.
have not been speaking. They've not spoken for years. And in her mind, she was just like, he's out to get me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she always, she presumes a lot about what someone's thinking, which I think we all do, right?
We do. Yeah.
I think we all do. I think everyone presumes, not necessarily because they want to, but because it's just a little bit faster, you know, in terms of like your daily life and operating it and stuff. But Kathleen's presumptions, at least in regards to Cal, stem from a biased, fairly negative perspective. Now, I would say at the end of our first reading here, you're starting to see that shift a little bit.
A little bit,
You know?
but at the start, she is clearly still hurt, still angry. And it could be just seeing him, being in the same room as him, is bringing up emotions and events that she has not emotionally or mentally dealt with yet and kind of matured through. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he made a good point. At one point, like later, he says something like, I needed to make sure you could still perform, right? Because she hasn't been performing.
Right.
It's not like she's been doing a lot of public performances.
Yeah, it's not like she's been off Broadway.
Like she's been doing not much. Like she's been teaching dance classes, which is great, right? But
it's not the same as being the performer, though.
Right, and or being in a very public on-stage setting, right?
Right.
That's definitely more private.
Right. Do the characters remind you of any celebrities that we should know of?
Well, clearly there is some inspiration from Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake.
Okay.
And what happened with him, and
for the viewers, because they may not know, would you mind reminding us what happened with Britney and Justin?
So apparently, when they toward the end of their relationship, she kissed another guy or something, and he was heartbroken, and I guess framed himself as like America's good guy, right? And like faced not a lot of backlash, and she got the brunt of the backlash. There was even like a Diane Sawyer, I think it was Diane Sawyer interview where she like asked Britney Spears, who's like maybe early 20s. I don't remember the ages or anything like that, but she's like young, and she like placed all the blame on her. It was like, how could you hurt him like that? Blah blah blah. And like, I don't know. I feel really bad for her, right? Because like that's not fair. And if something like that is happening, I feel like there's an issue in the relationship to begin with that there should be a discussion around before it escalates to that. But
before it spills over,
maybe communicate. Communication is key. But I feel like things like that happen with some frequency of like high schoolers, right? Like
Yeah, I mean,
high school, early college, like
yeah, it's just immaturity.
it is.
It's also
the difference is having like the media against you.
yeah, it's also like youth in general, and this is the way it should be. Youth in general doesn't have, or they have the luxury of minimal responsibility to themselves, to others, right? Whereas like if you're a bit older, you're married, you have kids or whatever, right? It's you don't have the luxury of just drama getting to overtake everything that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
So and that's a whole different conversation to have. Clearly this book is written for. I'm cool with it more than I thought it'd be.
Similarities, right? To like that situation. I don't know all the details. There were also rumors that he had cheated. So
it's like blurring the lines.
Yeah.
What's real, what's not.
So, and I do remember at the time that he did Justin Timberlake, right? Like Cal's not a real person. Didn't really, as far as I knew, did not face a lot of like career backlash, right? Versus like the tabloids just going off against Britney. But she also probably was more successful on her own. I think he was still part of NSYNC at the time, not a solo artist or actor at the time. So I don't know, maybe that's why they rallied against her, which is not fair, but
I don't know.
She's got a book out too now, though. She released her autobiography.
Did she?
Yeah, last fall.
How old is Britney now?
Don't know. Maybe early 40s.
I thought an autobiography was supposed to be more like I'm at the end of my career or I'm done with my career.
She's been through a lot more than most of us, though, in half the time. So
that's a fair point.
Just like I don't know all the details, but just like the little bit that I've skimmed throughout her career, right? Like I remember her, being on TRL and stuff, and I don't know.
Oops, I did it again. Okay. Do you think Cal really moved past their indiscretion with no repercussions? I think you have answered this one.
Oh, I would say it is minimal.
Yeah.
I think any repercussions that he felt were not public. And by repercussions, like, because he was in the same boy band as the other guy, right? So I could see that leading to some tension.
He also, I get the impression that he could have been kicked out of Crush Zone and he wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
Like he just was kind of like, whatever, it's a ride.
Yeah.
Not that he's like a chill, laid back kind of guy, but I think he clearly had other goals. He even mentions that, he took on any directing gig he could get to basically get to the point where he could direct something for Broadway. And
right.
That's what this musical is.
That she's the one who said he would be a good director.
Yeah. And he's also, I think, the only college educated. Not that this really means anything, but it means he completed something before he was, famous. That he is, has a higher level of education generally.
Yeah.
So he's just much more interesting, and I want to read more about Cal and know a bit about him.
Yeah.
And we just keep getting more Katy. And
right.
Cal through the eyes of Katy, which
is clearly skewed. So
yeah, so that's yeah.
I would say that's probably my one critique so far. It was just that we don't have any of his perspective, and I think that would help enrich the story.
Yeah, what is their musical even about? Like I know Kathleen described it.
It's called Riveted, and I think she did describe it. I think it's basically
like Rosie the Riveter.
Yeah.
Basically, like
so like the men
fun
go off
musical
to
telling.
war, and
that's actually a nifty little premise.
It is.
Yeah.
I do think it would make an interesting musical.
Maybe the author, what's her name? Elissa's writing it.
Maybe. She should.
She's writing it right now.
She could be. Perhaps. So speaking of musicals, do you have a favorite one?
I have not seen a tremendous amount of musicals,
Mm-hmm.
but from the ones I have seen,
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing Beauty and the Beast on Broadway, which I was in high school. It was for like a senior trip of some sorts. And the vote was between Stomp and Beauty and the Beast. I didn't really care, but I voted for Stomp. All the other guys didn't care at all, so they didn't vote at all. So that means all the girls voted for Beauty and the Beast, so we went and saw Beauty and the Beast. But it was a very pleasant experience. I believe David Copperfield was hired to design the illusions on stage, and there were some really impressive ones. It was just enjoyable. And then I would say one more in recent memory that I've seen is probably Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
That one's just a good solid one.
It is.
What about you?
I've seen quite a few. They do like this Broadway series, and my dad used to get tickets for it. And then we would rotate who would go with him to each of the shows. So we would kind of look at the list of shows coming each season, and each of us would get to pick like one or two that we were interested in seeing.
That's fun.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
occasionally there'd be like one that he would decide to take everyone to. But probably one of my favorite performances. Oh, there were quite a few. Probably one of my favorite, which is kind of out of the box, like no one's talking about it, was actually The Scarlet Pimpernel. And it's set during the French Revolution, and it's about this Englishman who disguises himself, sneaks into France, and sneaks out the nobility that are basically on the chopping block for the guillotine. And there's romance, because his honey is from that area, is from France, and she's like, what happened to the man I married? Because he's got to keep this whole a secret, and so it's really fun. It's really fun. And he's just got to keep his secret identity a secret, and the ways that he does that are just highly entertaining. And I think, so the music's fantastic, and I think the cast that we saw was actually the Broadway cast. I think the Broadway cast, or most of them, toured with that show, and they were just fantastic. Like the three leads, the main guy, the main bad guy, and then the love interest, they were all just phenomenal. It was fantastic. So that's one that like I saw once, loved it. Like we'll still listen to the music from that one, and I would love to see it again, but it's not popular now, so no one's performing it, not even high schools around here.
Well, if it ever is,
So
I'll be your date.
thank you. But musical idea for you guys. Scarlet Pimpernel.
If you have the means to make it happen, make it happen.
If you do.
Katie wants to see it again.
Yeah, let me know. It's a good one.
We'll send you a copy of a book.
We will.
Okay. Well, those were our general discussion questions.
Mhm.
Katie, you want to give everyone not their homework, but the suggested reading?
Yeah, so for next time, we are going to cover chapters 11 through 24.
All right. And you can find this podcast anywhere you listen or on YouTube. Remember to give us a follow, leave a review. Anything helps. Until next time, that's my wife, Katie.
And that's my husband, Josh.
And this has been Book Club Date. We'll see you next time.
Bye.